It's a big one.
Oh, it's a big one.
Hey review family, keep it high, keep it tight. My name is Jens, the review guy reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video, and in this one I'm going to be covering the new Sepultura record entitled Quadra. Insanely long-running band Sepultura. This is their 15th studio-length album. They've carefully been able to merge death metal, thrash metal, groove metal, progressive metal into this flurry of havoc. And on the subject of groove metal, which unfortunately nowadays is sort of a dying genre, you usually think of two bands right away when you hear that term. You think of Pantera. God rest his soul, Dimebag Darrell's one of the best guitarists that has ever been in heavy metal, dare I say, been a guitarist for any band in general, and Phil Anselmo is one of the best vocalists in heavy metal. But when you think of a second band, chances are you think of Sepultura. These guys have been wreaking havoc for so long, and usually when a Sepultura release comes out, I've just been like, alright, this is pretty good, they're following suit. Their last record, though, Machine Messiah, was a really sick record. If I had been reviewing music at the time when it came out, I definitely would have slapped that with a pretty high score. And to add on that a little bit, I will say that one of the main reasons I do like that record so much is the production from Jens Bogren, or Jens Bogren, who also produces this record. He's worked with everyone from Creator to Paradise Lost, Amon Amarth, Kataonia, Soilwork, Opeth, and tons of more. I'll probably put somewhere on the screen all of his credits. Dare I say, though, that Quadra is better than Machine Messiah and probably one of my favorite Sepultura albums that I have ever heard. 12 tracks, over 50 minutes, with very little in the way of lulls. These are pummeling, full-throttle tracks that don't know how to let up on the gas. And I think before I go into the main meat of the album, I should go ahead and talk a little bit about the concept of the album. It's a very fascinating concept album to me that explores numerology, specifically the number 4. And I don't want to sit here and get dull as an unsharpened switchblade and talk about something in a soliloquy fashion, but I will say that it also deals with the Quadrivium, which is in liberal arts education, something that was taught after the Trivium, which dealt with arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. Basically, it was lumped together with the 7 thinking skills that were really popularized by some philosophers in the 6th century and sort of separated themselves from the whole compact thing that included practical skills such as medicinal things as well as architecture. But I don't want to get boring here. Quadra takes a different approach to that. The word in Latin translates directly to 4 ways, and Quadra is set up in 3-track increments that all come together to create 4 different topics, or more so, 4 different sounds. The first bunch of 3 is a more thrash metal oriented sound. The second bunch of 3 is more oriented around a groove metal sound and a more low-tuned type of sound. The third bunch of 3 is more progressive related, and the 4th section of 3 incorporates more melodicism and slower tracks. Not only from a numerical and from an interesting, fascinating type of concept point of view is this record cool, but it does give a lot of diversity to the record that makes it go by in such a flash that it doesn't seem like a 50-minute record. Can we just talk about something? Can we talk about how they pack some kick-ass tracks into each section? Like Agony of Defeat off of the slower melodic section. It feels like Sepultura's answer to power metal or like Nightwish, with just a crushing progression. And that's one thing, is the different sections do blend into one another to some degree, with Sepultura being able to continue their style and still have their fingerprint, their blueprint laid out, and the foundation is the same. It's just how they build upon that in these different ways that makes the record sound different and more diverse from each section to section. And while I wouldn't say that it is the most different from section to section, there is a noticeable differential type of sound throughout each section, which is what they were going for. And when I say they bleed through, I'm not necessarily joking with that, because if you take the 3rd track off of the 1st section, which is supposed to be more thrash metal oriented, the track Last Time, the latter half of the track, when you hit that solo, even though it does fit in squarely with the old school thrash metal scene, it also could easily be something that you could hear on either the progressive section or the last melodic section of this record. And the tracks Alley and Raging Void off of the, I'm sorry I keep doing air quotes, the groove metal section, It sounds like if Pantera was still at large. Which makes a lot of sense because Sepultura were around at the same time at the peak of groove metal. It's just Pantera solely dedicated themselves to it while Sepultura was working with different genres. The guitars on The Pentagram are so buzzsaw! The fact that this far into their career in working with such a fairly monstrous concept that they're able to come out with a lot of really cool guitar and bass licks on this record is much appreciated. And that's not even to get on the subject of the drums, which sound absolutely ferocious. And with that being said, Derek Green is a fucking beast when it comes to the vocals. He embodies the groove metal rage that you would have gotten from bands like Pantera and, of course, Sepultura. This is the type of album, and I feel like Machine Messiah is too, that can single-handedly carry a genre on its back, because considering nowadays groove metal is pretty much just bands like Five Finger Death Punch, machismo music for guys in the gym drinking Monster with their hats turned backwards and pumping iron to it. Brochismo type music, in other words. But even though the genre has been in the tubes for a while, this record reminds me of why it was in prominence in the first place and why I want it back more than ever. These down-tuned guitars, these syncopated rhythms, these monstrous vocals, these politically charged lyrics or antisocial lyrics. There are very few genres besides perhaps folk, punk to some degree, or just punk in general, as well as some of grindcore if we're talking Nails in the power violence scene, that just fully embody fuck you! And nowadays, bands like Five Finger Death Punch that try to reflect that feeling just come off feeling a little disingenuous, a little bit phony, like they don't really pack as much rage and they're just trying to be more commercially viable and edgy as opposed to really just being sick of things. If I had to say my favorite section, even though the first section is so throttling, so high energy and high octane, I love it, the second section probably is the best musically. And when it comes to musical diversity, I've already commented on that, but on a track like Guardians of Earth, they incorporate some Brazilian sounds, mostly in that guitar opener, and it just is a neat little opener. And jumping 1 second back to the thrash metal opener, the first track, Isolation, it has the most epic, orchestral, demented, devilish buildup that I've heard from a record of this genre in a hot minute. I'm trying to find bad things to say about this record. I've listened to it 3 times as of now, not gotten sick of it on any time, and there's more things I'm learning about the record each and every time. This is one of my favorite records that I've heard in a while, and that's counting records from last year. If this would have dropped last year, it would have been top 10, let me just say that. It's rip-roaring, and the production is so dense. It just feels like an impenetrable fog that you just can't penetrate, that you just can't pierce, and each track has its own little interesting, unique style to hand to you, and I love the fact that it's all divided in a way that there's enough different about each section that they can work on their own. You can listen to each 3, and it kind of functions as its own little mini EP, but when you listen to the whole thing, it's so mind-blowing how cohesive the whole project is. Not that they need to be revitalized or anything, but I think this is the type of record that is going to remind people just how strong of a band Sepultura is, and I just hope that they continue this going into the 2020s and have more and more longevity going forward. I could sit here and ramble about how much I love this record more and more, but I'm going to be giving this album a 9 out of 10. And that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Sepultura record, Quadra? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss the record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Moore's Third View Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.
Go ahead, live your best life.